go live. So now everybody will hear everything that we're saying.
Let me see. I'm thinking about changing cameras. Let me see what looks better,
Okay.
this one or the one I had on.
You ever notice lately there's 4 ways to do anything?
Yep. We've all, it's a learning experience.
Yes. Well, Facebook people, we are streaming live. Come on in, have a seat. Gil and I are going to get married today. I'm kidding. But you can have a seat. You can sit on one side of the room if you're for Gil, sit on the right. That's the place of honor. And sit on the left if you're here for me. Or sit in the middle and be for both of us, you
There
guys.
you
Let's
go.
bring
There
world
you
peace.
go. There you go.
Today we got Gil Tucker. Let me read you his amazing intro. And I quote Gil Tucker, that's that person over there, aka Gil T, is an award winning theatrical actor. Okay? Do I need to repeat it? He's an award, yes, I do. He's an award winning theatrical actor. Okay? And a comedian. Wow. He's performed in Atlantic City, Las Vegas casinos. Woo woo. Give it up for the 702 in the house. New York City's Madison Square Garden.
Yes,
Holy
ma'am.
Toledo. OMG. And comedy clubs throughout the country. He's been seen on HBO, Showtime, B.E.T, and Comedy Central. If there ever was a time that we had a legend, and I'm sure he's too humble to hear that word connected to him, this would be it. Welcome to Comic Spot, the Gil Tucker. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. It's
My
it's it's
Lord.
so nice to finally see you face to face, Linda.
Thank you. Same with me. That's how I feel. Oh my gosh. Gil Tucker, where were you born? What state?
Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah. What
Born and
part?
born and raised. Well, I was born in Crown Heights, grew up in Park Slope, and then eventually raised my children in Crown Heights.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I used to sell advertising for the Brooklyn paper in Park Slope.
Really? So you know
Yes,
my area then. You know
I
my
do.
area. Yeah,
I found 2 dentists using the same business name.
really well in that area. We had a few people that came out of that area that were grew up to do great things. One of the people that I used to hang out with, went to elementary and junior high school with me, was Lawrence Fishburne. So
Oh
so him and I go back to elementary school.
my gosh. That's so cool. Who's the other one?
Well, the current district attorney is also went to junior high school with me.
Wow.
So
Man.
you never know who's doing what in that area, but we had a lot of major people coming out of that area, so it's such a beautiful area, and it's a little melting pot because you got a little bit of everybody in that area. So we grew up learning how to love and respect everybody, and that's just the nature of it. Whereas you had a lot of other areas that were just like you went to school in certain areas, it was all black or all white, or whatever the case may be. And then high school, I wound up going to Performing Arts High School in New York, which is the school they call Fame. And as a matter of fact, myself and another brother that wound up becoming, his name is Thomas Lytell. He wound up becoming the uh, VP of promotions for Def Jam. Him and I started, him and I used to play music during lunchtime. So when you see the scene in performing arts where people are running around outside the school dancing, we actually were some of the people that used to play the music during lunchtime. So it was a great experience. I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world.
Wow. So how is it? Like, did somebody say you're talented and you need to go to this high school, or did you say
Um, what happened was I used to do all of the shows. Excuse me. I used to do all of the shows in all the talent shows in junior high school, and I didn't even know about performing arts, and in the ninth grade, somebody was telling me, you know, that they auditioning for this performing arts school, and I was like, well, I didn't know anything about it. Somebody else had an audition, passed it up, and they gave me the slot. So that's how I wound up auditioning for performing arts, and I only had like I had a couple of days to get myself organized for the audition, but went in, and it was one of the best experiences in my life.
Wow. Have you ever been in the military?
No, no, but you
Have you
know,
done comedy for the troops?
well, we've done when I was with the comedy team, we did a couple of the bases and stuff. You know,
Wonderful.
so I have a, a great respect for the military, especially like my father was a merchant marine, and he eventually worked his way up to treasurer of I think it was NMU. You know, so yeah, I really like, you know, and love a lot of the military people, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have the freedoms that we have right now. So I take my hat off to them all the time.
I can usually tell if somebody is military or military is in their family and your bloodline, because you carry yourself with a certain respect that, so I felt there was military connection. I'm not a psychic, but I'm a veteran, and I can tell if somebody, just I can pick out somebody in a crowd who's military or a veteran or has military people in their family. We carry ourselves differently.
Yeah, my father used to do the white glove treatment when I cleaned the room. He also used to bounce the coin on the bed, you know. So I had a lot of, so I basically I was raised with military structure through him. So
Yes. We had people bouncing coins, but they were doing off the backs of girls. I don't know. It came from a rough
I
neighborhood.
keep forgetting you're a comedian. I keep forgetting that.
So does everybody else. Trust me. But they're about to find out.
There you go. There you go.
So, talk to me about, you go to a school for performing arts, and I want to hear all about your performing career. And when did comedy come in, and how did starting performing arts help you with comedy, as opposed to people you've seen who started in comedy and go to performing arts or never have performing arts?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you know, even if I'm geared more toward theater, even though I do you know, film, I do TV, but theater was where I got my structure as far as acting. Uh, and when you're part of that structure, it helps because there's times when, let's say, you got people that as far as stand up, you got guys that are in the clubs every day, and the more you do it, the better you become at it. Whereas myself, since I've done it for a certain amount of years, um, I can take off a month or two, and then just go into a rehearsal period just to get my rhythm back and get back on stage, and it'll seem like I never left the stage, you
Wow.
know. So that
Did
helps
you
me as
say
far as,
rhythm?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that when
exactly. Yeah, people don't understand with comedy, it's in beats, you know. So there's a way that you, if your timing is off, you'll know it automatically, because you'll be telling a joke and all of a sudden it's like it's not flowing the way it's supposed to flow. And once you get that flow back down, you know that, all right, well, this is my setup. All right, this is my little storyline, and this is my punchline. And you know when to hold. You know, it's just like a lot of actors can't do comedy because of the fact that they don't know that when you tell a certain joke or when you say something that's funny, most actors will plod right through it and just keep talking. When you know, as a comedian, you automatically know, all right, well, I said this line, now I got to hold for the laughter, because if not, then they'll step on the punchline, or they'll step on the setup for the next joke. So that always helped me in my premise as far as doing as far as being an actor and a comedian. You know, it helps immensely.
Yes, wonderful. So I want to talk to you about musicality that you mentioned and the rhythm, because Maya DeGiorgio in LA, I adore her. She's a tap dancer. She's trained with Gregory Hines. She
Mm,
does women plays. Maya says when she writes her jokes, she does it to rock music. Have you
mm.
ever used music when you're inspired to write?
No, but from time to time there will be a song that'll come on and it'll inspire me to write a joke. You know, as
Okay.
far as certain lyrics and stuff, automatically it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that I could see where I could make that into a premise for a joke and just write it. I find most of my material in the news and in just every life, you know, everyday life things. So like, you know, in my stand up, I talk about marriage. I talk about children because you know, I got 5 kids. So all of that helps me with where I'm going as far as telling jokes. Um, I still talk about stuff that they did when they were kids, you know. So it's a fun thing. So it's all in learning um, your particular rhythm. Everybody has a different rhythm when they tell jokes. So you have like you might have some comics that do a deadpan comedy, and it's just a dry joke, but the punchline takes you somewhere else, and that's the key to comedy. They'll see the joke coming, and they'll be like, oh, I see where they're going with this, and then all of a sudden you flip the script and you go somewhere else with the punchline. It's like I didn't see that coming, and it forces that laugh, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, but
Yes.
I like you know, I guess it might be a black thing, but we all like coming up to music because it gets the crowd going and we're having fun before we even tell our first joke. And then by the time, you know, everything dies down and you get into your first joke, you've already found a certain rapport with your audience. Because if they like the way you're dancing and the way you're moving, automatically you're getting chuckles. So then once you hit your first line, you know, they're with you. They're riding with you. So yeah, I would say that having like you're not you're not performing to a necessary rhythm because I might go from a joke to a story. But if I'm telling a story, I have little punchlines throughout the story so that eventually they're not just sitting there waiting for a long period before you hit them with the punchline. You know, but at the same time, being a storyteller, there's times when you can hear a pin drop in the audience because they're just so into the story that you're telling them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, where's he going?" Then all of a sudden, pow, you take them somewhere else, and that's where you get your best laugh.
Got it. What's the topic of your favorite story to tell that tears people up, tears up a room?
I guess it's the talking about children, you know, and the fact that when we were coming up, you were either a good child or a bad child. Um, you were either in regular classes or you were in health class. Uh, and now it's now they're diagnosing the children with all different types of ailments. So you know, you got children, they got what they got ADD, they got ODD, they got ADHD. I say most of them just DUMB, just damn dumb. There's something wrong with these children out here nowadays, you know. So I start with that premise and then I go into a whole little story about um you know how as a parent you become a very sneaky individual. You never realized that you would have to sneak to do everything. You know, it's almost like when you're young and you're living in your parents' house and you're trying to get away with something and you're doing something and all of a sudden you hear something, you go, ooh, did they hear me? It's the same thing when you got kids in the house. You close the door, you start to get busy, but as soon as you hear something, oh, did you hear something? So you got to stop your rhythm, like, okay, all right, now I can go back, you know. But so I do a whole little thing about that, you know, and how like when you have more than one child in the house, if something gets broke, uh, it you know, it becomes a trial, an inquiry. You gotta sit everybody down, and you gotta know who your snitches are. You know, you gotta know your children. So you pull them in the room one at a time, but usually you pull in the snitch first, or and you get the real deal. You find out exactly who did what. So this way, when you're talking to everybody else, you already know what happened, but you're just feeling them out to see if they're gonna lie to you or not. You know, so it's a whole thing, you know, when you're a parent. Whereas when you're an individual and you got one child, something get broke, you know who broke it automatically. I know you broke it, you know, but little kids will find a way to lie about it anyway. But when you got five, it's like, ooh, it's gonna take some work to find out who did what. But know your children. So, and you gotta watch what you say around, you gotta watch what you say around your kids. You know, they had an old joke about how this teacher called the parent and said, look, your child was in the classroom cursing. They said the S word, they said the F word, they said the MF word, they said, and the parent goes, well, I don't know where the MF he got that S from, but when I get home, I'm gonna beat his F in the hand. You know, so you gotta watch what you say around your kids, because your kids will say what you say.
Right. You got it. And now with the pandemic, the parents are the teachers.
Oh, I feel so sorry for these parents, especially you stuck in the house now with your kids 24/7. At least we had a break. We just had to have them for the whole weekend. But during the week, you know, all right, they off to school. At least you got that time, you know. But now, ooh, and I can't even imagine trying to teach
Nobody
these
can have
kids some of the stuff, some of the lessons they learning.
it.
Everything is new math, new this. Keep it away from me. You know, I
Nobody's
tell my
even talked about how stressful that it must be for the parents to teach them.
oh, I know they're losing their mind in the house. I know they are losing their mind, you know. And like I said, and it all depends on the age of the child. You know, when they're little, you can handle them pretty good. But once they get to a teenager, oh Lord, they think they know more than you. They telling you what to do. I have to say, man, you pay the rent here? You paying the rent? But I had to find out. The thing is to find out your child's Achilles heel. You got to find out what what they really love, because that's what you can use to hold leverage. You know, I never forget one time I told my son was he did something, I don't remember what it was, but I told him, I said, now you got a choice. You got a choice. I can clap you on your behind, or I could take away your game system. And he was like, I'll take the clap on the behind. I said, nope, I'm taking the game system, just that. And see, you know, he looked like he was having convulsions. Game. You know, these kids, you got to know how to leverage stuff. That's the only way that you can deal with a teenager, you know.
I spoiled my daughter so badly. Oh my gosh. And talk to me about not spoiling your children. I bet you're funny when you talk about that.
Well, I will be honest. I think I probably was harder on my boys than I was on my girls, because I got three boys, I got two girls. Um, my girls would just have to hit me with them eyes, and I'm like, oh, I can't punish them, you know. That, but with my boys, all right, go to your room. I don't want to see you for the next day. You know, but with the girls, it's I guess it depends on the parent, but I find it really hard to I always found it hard. So yeah, and I'm like you in the sense that you know, I think I spoil my girls more than I did my boys. My boys at the same time, my whole thing with children, I would find out what they really enjoyed and push them in that area. But as soon as they weren't feeling it, like my oldest daughter, she wanted to be an actress. So I was really good at teaching her the craft. So she wound up on Broadway. But the problem with her was she always found it hard um, to hear people say no. And in this business, you have to be able to hear the word no and keep it moving, you know. But when you can't take that, then it's best not to do this business. And in her case, it was like she just kept losing parts to this same girl. So after a while, she started disliking the girl, and I said it's not her fault, but it was she was my daughter was on the East Coast, this girl was on the West Coast, um, and the girl was working all the time. And Disney would say, "Well, this is our girl on the East Coast," and then they would say, "Well, this is our girl on the West Coast," and they would always wind up going that way because I realized later on it was like you had to fly the parent out with the child and all this other stuff. So if you got somebody on contract that's already working, you might as well use that person. So
So it sounds like it was a Britney Christina Aguilera scenario.
you could say that. You could say that,
Yeah.
but it's just one of those things you have to. I say, as far as your children, the main thing is to let them know that whatever they decide they want to do in life, uh, as a parent, you got their back. And when you do that, um, it makes for a much better, you could say, friendship, because you have to be, a lot of people say, well, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent. True, but there are times when you have to have that common bond where, especially you become friends with them, so that they feel like they can come to you and talk to you about anything. And that's a major step. Whereas some parents, they don't talk with their children, so they don't know what's going on, and the only time they hear from the children when something bad happens.
That's right. That's right. My daughter, one of the good things raising my daughter as a single parent from the time she was 4 is she got to a place in her life where she told me if I wouldn't have had an element of friendship with her, she wouldn't have made it through the rough years, high school.
Yeah,
And that's wonderful to hang on to.
yeah, you have to have a communication. You have to be able to communicate with your child. And if it gets to the point where your child feels that they can't come to you with anything, that's when your children wind up getting in trouble, because they have you they don't feel they relate with you, or they feel that if they tell you something, you're going to wind up flipping on them. um I feel like your child should feel like they should be able to come to you with anything. At the same time, um one of my daughters had gotten into a little problem, and she was scared to come to me because of the fact that she didn't want me to be ashamed of her. She was ashamed of what she did, and she didn't want me to basically find that out. But in the long run, once we found out, we sat down, and I told him, I said, look, you don't have to ever feel that way. I'm here for you no matter what. It's kind of like, you should have a wedding vows with your kids, you know, for richer, for poor, for better, for worse, until death do us part. Because that you basically spend more time with them after if your marriage goes sour, and you love your kids, you're gonna always be there for your children. You usually can step away from a marriage.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, talk to me about the things you've done on Broadway and the things you've done in comedy. But I want you to know,
Well, I haven't been on Broadway. I haven't been on Broadway.
on
I've been on off Broadway.
okay,
Um,
theatrical
but as far
actor.
as yeah, well, all right. Well, I've been doing theater for years. I'm alumni to a couple of to like 3 or 4 different companies in New York, and I'd say about 2017, I got a call from a friend of mine. I had did a play called A Soldier's Play, and that play actually became a movie. It was a Pulitzer Prize winning play, um, which became a movie that was nominated for some Academy Awards, which was called A Soldier's Story, with Denzel Washington, with Adolph Caesar, um, who else? The original play, I remember had Samuel L. Jackson, but he wasn't in the movie. So you had tons of star power, and that show toured for like almost, I'd say, a little over 2 years. But I got a call to audition for it, and I had did the play before. And a friend of mine, his name is Fulton C. Hodges. Him and I had did the play, and he had played a character called Wilkie, and I had played Sergeant Waters. And anyway, he said, "Man, too bad you living down all the way down in Miami, because they're auditioning. The Negro Ensemble Company is going to be auditioning for a Soldier's Play." And I said, "Well, look, man, I always wanted to be affiliated with NEC, Negro Ensemble Company, so I will just find out when the auditions are. I'm gonna call in and come up an audition." So by the time I finally got the audition date, it would have cost me too much to fly. So I just jumped in the car, drove to New York, all the way from Miami, auditioned, and wound up getting the role. And the director became like one of my mentors, one of my best friends. He passed since then, but luckily he was able to, because we won. They have a what they call the Adelco Awards, and we won the Adelco Award for best revival, and I won the Adelco for best featured actor, doing the role of Sergeant Waters. So it was a blessing. And then from there, I just started doing a lot of other plays. But
Congratulations on that award.
thank you. Yeah, but I've been doing, like I said, doing plays in New York City for years, and I'd say the one that really put me on the map had to be A Soldier's Play. That was the end all, to be all for me. I just felt so blessed to be able to be involved and do that role, because Adolph Caesar, who played the role originally, um, to me, he was like a man against a man in the midst of boys, because he was so talented. So for me to even be able to stand on his shoulders to do that role said a lot, and then to win an award for it made me feel like, well, I was justified in following up to do that role.
Wow. Well, you've done comedy around the country, in Vegas, Atlantic City, but I gotta say, Madison Square Garden, it's my goal. And whether I reach it or not, I'm striving for Madison Square Garden. I don't care if it's in the women's room. I don't care. I got to do
Well,
comedy in the garden.
we basically we got in there on a lark. We were doing me and my comedy partner, his name was Chili Most. We were the Most Brothers. And at the time, they used to call me Dark. So I was Dark Gable Most. And he would always ask me, he said, "Well, you ain't that dark." I said, "But I'm darker than Clark." So, but as a team, we always used to do the first club in the country that was ever built specifically for comedy was called Pips Comedy Club in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. And you had people like um, everybody who was anybody in that era went through that room. So Dice Clay was in that room. Henny Youngman. Um, I mean, I could go on. Rodney Dangerfield. All of these major stars came through that room. That's where they got their start. And we were regular members. We were always in the club doing that room. I started off as a solo act in there, and then eventually the team wound up in there. And the guy that was running the club at the time originally was owned by the Schultzes, and then there was a guy that used to be the bouncer. His name was Ray Garvey, and eventually Ray Garvey wound up taking over the room. So he bought the room, but he did a show. He had put together it was a TV show. So we had shot a pilot there called Last Laugh at Pips. And while we were there, Steve Sharippa, who was in The Sopranos and a few other things, happened to come through, and he was one of the people that was in the pilot. Saw what we could do and said, "Well, look, I'm doing a show at Madison Square Garden." Um, he said it's going to be called it was like a Guido night or something. He was saying it was all Italians. He said, but I could see where you guys would rip up the room. So could you come out to Madison Square Garden? And we said, of course, we're there. So he introduces us. We're backstage, and you got all these Italian comics going up doing their thing. All of a sudden, he goes up and he goes, "Well, I'm about to bring up some of my family." He said these two guys are my cousins from Naples, and Naples. He goes, yeah, not but not Naples, Italy, Naples, Florida. Give them a hand, y'all, the Most Brothers. So we come up and we used to do a lot of impressions. And what he had wanted us to do, we had a routine that we did with Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra doing let me see what song was it we used to do, My Way. We would do a duet to My Way. So he would start over, he would go, and now, and I'm going, and now. And so we would do this whole thing. But while we're doing it, we're cutting up each other while we're singing it. And when we finished, we got damn near a standing ovation. And that was our break going into Madison Square Garden. But it was wonderful. So we wound up doing like maybe 5 minutes of material, but it was a great moment. You know, it was a great moment.
How many people does the garden hold?
I couldn't even tell you. But the two largest shows, I think we did that one, and we opened up for In Vogue at the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and but I think it was more people in the garden though. But it was those were two memorable moments, you know, in our career.
Did you get to meet the group from In Vogue?
Yeah, we met them. We took pictures with them. Very, very sweet young ladies. Very sweet young ladies.
Very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So, who are some of the greats that came before you that made you say, you know what? I really think comedy is for me?
The crazy thing is, the first person that I ever said I want to do that while I was watching them, I was really little, and I was watching the Ed Sullivan Show. Most young people don't even know, never even heard of the Ed Sullivan Show. So I'm doing
I'm
the Ed Sullivan.
69 years old, so I
Say
get
that
it.
again.
I'm 69 years old, so I
Oh,
get it.
oh, you wearing it? You wear that real well.
I'm giving these young girls a run for their money, and I'm not even after their men.
You're wearing that real well, because most people your age, your complexion, ooh, they wrinkled up bad about your age. You're wearing it well, girl. um, but I'm watching TV, and this gentleman came out with a black suit on, white shirt, black tie, and he was just standing there telling jokes. And he did a joke about himself and his brother, and it had me rolling. And I said, "Oh, I want to do that." And that was Bill Cosby. That was
Yes.
Bill Cosby. And um, years later, I had an opportunity to me and my partner. We met Bill on several occasions. He even gave us information to try and get us locked into his agents and stuff like that. But you know, I can't even get into that because that's just so sad what happened on both sides of that story. But
Well, I want people to know that I went and saw him when I was just out of high school in Vegas. And I've never laughed to the point where I'm banging the table with my hand. You know, he had me dying laughing over just everyday things you talk about
and clean
and
and
clean.
squeaky clean, you know. But he had a style that was just unlike most comedians. And then as I got a little older, um, I started getting into Red Fox and Richard Pryor. Um, so those people were like the people that made me want to do comedy. Another person was like oh man, there was a gentleman that used to have a rubber face. I always said he had. Well, Dom DeLuise was hilarious too. Um, Don Rickles was just mean, but he was funny.
Yes.
Um, but you know, certain comics, I used to love physical comedy. I loved like Jerry Lewis and um,
Lady.
yeah, Jerry Lewis used to kill me. So there was a ton of people that came before me that I really loved. But to me, there's no better compliment than to see somebody and than to put a smile on somebody's face. If I could put a smile on somebody's face, it makes my day. You know, so whether I'm performing for, that's another thing that I've learned as a professional comic. Um, you never worry about how many people are in your audience. If you come out, like we used to do Dangerfields on a regular, I used to do Dangerfields with the team and solo. And, you know, during the course of the night, you've got, especially on the weekends, you might have 3 shows in one night. And during the course of those 3 shows, the first 2 shows might be packed. The last show, you may have 5 or 6 people. And you have a lot of comics that see 5 or 6 people, they're like, well, you know, they just go through the motions. Matter of fact, they don't even do material. They just talk about stupidness. And my thing is, I always said, well, regardless of how many people are in the audience, I'm going to do my best to make their day or make their night. And plus, you don't know who those 5 people might be. One of those people might be an agent. One of those people might be a manager. One of those people might be somebody looking for somebody for a film. So you do your best. You give it 100%, no matter how many people are in the audience. I'm not saying you can't goof around and try new material from time to time. We always try and throw in a little new material whenever we're working on a set. But um, these people, regardless of how many people they are, whether they paid or they got in for free, it doesn't matter. They came to see a show. So it's about basically doing your best because you're getting paid. So, and then there's times when I would just show up to different clubs and they go, oh man, you want to do a little bit of time? And I'd be like, sure. So whether you're getting paid or not, it's about doing your best, you know, and it's about basically connecting with your audience and making sure that they're enjoying themselves while they're sitting out there, you know, and to me, that's the key.
There's a couple things I want to tell you because to me you're a legend. And um, number one, I don't think that I'm in the business 6.5 years, and I don't think there's enough people in comedy that show respect to those who have come before us, like you, who've paved a way for everybody to have a platform. You've sacrificed so much. Maybe you weren't in the service, but the sacrifice to make people laugh has come at a cost for you. There, you've made choices along the way for this Michigan business that's up and down. And we need to stop and pay homage to you. That's how I strongly feel. And that needs to be said.
Well, thank you. You know, my whole thing is, I've been in the business for years. Um, I come from a time when we had a different set of rules as far as comedians. Um, everybody, I mean, you might have had 1 or 2 comedians that were um ego driven and didn't want to deal with other people. I've always been the way where regardless of what plateau I might be on, um, I'm always going to try to give back. So there's a lot of younger comics that have come up and say, well, you know how you ask different questions. My whole thing is, look, um, I can't take it with me. So whatever information I have that I can impart to a younger comic coming up, I'm going to do my best to help them out. Because, you know, it's not all about me. It's about whatever I can do to help different people, because there's more than enough clout and money and everything else for everybody, you know. And you'll know the people that are respectful, that that are hungry for knowledge, that want to move on, that want to become better. And those are the people that I'm more than happy to impart whatever I know that can help them become a better comic. Just like I'll sit back and I'll watch another comedian and hear a joke and say, "Oh, you know what would go great with that?" And then I would, after the end of the show, I would say, "Look, that joke was great. How about if you add this, and that might help tweak it to take it to a whole nother place." And most comedians are more than happy to grab that little bit of knowledge and run with it, and they'll try it the next time and say, "You know, that worked." And that's all. That's all.
And we need to be humble. You were mentioning that Sinbad is humble. I can tell you're humble, and I so appreciate, that demeanor in the business. When I first started doing these interviews, Gil, I was hearing nothing but ego. Like, I did this and I did that. I have to pull the things out of you that you've done, and you downplay them. That's the difference. And I think when you've had a certain amount of success, even though you don't talk about the fact that you've had success, but when you have, you're resting in the fact you don't have this thing to prove to the world. You just are.
Well, you know, it's a thing where there's so many different levels to this business. Um, and the key is whatever you feel satisfied with. I've seen comedians that I've known comedians that came up with me in the ranks, and they never made it to become a major star, and they're very bitter about it, you know. So you run into them, oh, I can't believe that so and so made it, and could you believe that that person made it, and you know, look, if you make it, it was your time. I'm happy for you. You know, fantastic. The business though has become very cliquish, whereas, well, you might be really good at what you do, but I have an opportunity that I could give you, but I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to one of my friends that's not even nowhere near as talented as you are, but they're my friend. So they're going to get that. They're going to get that opportunity. And I think that it should always be a thing where, as well, if you respect somebody's work and you get an opportunity to get them a leg up, why not? Why not? You know, my whole thing is, I've basically helped a lot of comedians during my lifetime, and a lot of actors. And my thing is, I'm not looking for you to basically help me. You know, I never forget, I had a friend of mine that said to me, "Yo, man, uh, you know, you grew up with Fishburne. Why he don't help you out?" I said, "That's you know, that's because I don't beg for nothing." You know, my whole thing is this: you don't know what opportunities that Fishburne may have given me. You know, but my whole thing is, if I have an opportunity to give somebody else something, or to give somebody an opportunity to open a certain door, why not? Why not? You know, if I can help you in any manner, shape, or form, beautiful. I'm not looking to cash in on what you're doing. I feel that when it's my time, it's my time. I feel that if somebody wants to give me an opportunity, they will. And I've gotten a lot of opportunities. The thing, like I said, there's so many different levels. So it depends on what you're satisfied with. I feel like I've done a lot of things that some people will never do in this lifetime. And I'm happy, I'm happy with that. So whether if I go tomorrow, I'm satisfied in knowing that, hey, look, I did a lot of things a lot of other people didn't do. I had opportunities, and at the same time, I feel that if you look out for other people, I believe in karma. You look out for other people. I don't look to get it back, or I don't look to ask God, well, look, God, I helped this person. How come you're not helping me? No. If God feels that it's your time, you'll get that. You'll get that opportunity when that opportunity comes. I had a friend of mine that told me, he said, man, I'm kind of glad. I was doing a film for him. He said, I'm kind of glad that you haven't blown up. And I said, well, why would you say that? I said, why would you? He said, because now I can put you in my stuff, and I got a a, a major player. It's like you're my secret. I said, well, uh, stop making it a secret and tell every damn body, because I want to get a little farther. But that it's all in what you do, and it's not about looking down on anybody else. I never forget, I was working with a comic, and this guy was the host of the show, and they had a new jack, a newbie that went up and did some time, and it was a young lady, and the girl had a heart. I mean, she went down in flames, and I felt so bad for her. Now the host had a choice. My whole thing was, when the girl came off the stage, I told her, I said, look, um, you had a decent set, but you need to work on certain things to help your craft to get better. But what the host did was go up there and made her the butt of the joke for the next 5 minutes. Just ripped the girl up. Now, an average amateur would have quit after that. But myself and another comedian, the other comedian's name was Victor Cruz. We went over to the young lady and told her, look, we bolstered her up and made her feel better about her set, and told her, look, don't give up on what you're doing. If this is what you want to do, sometimes you got to fight through adversity and just keep it moving. But like I said, I really got pissed off with the other comic, because the host, because that's not the way I'm built. And I've seen quite a few comics that host do that. They see somebody else bomb, or they see somebody else struggle, and they feel it. All right, well, look, I'm gonna make this some. I'm gonna get some jokes out on this person to make myself look funny. But I wasn't raised like that. I'm not built like that. So my whole thing is, look, uh, if you're trying to get in the business, because I know how hard it was when I first started out. I never forget. I was doing an open mic, and one of the comics that was on the set with me was Rita Rudner doing the open mic, and I was like, this girl is special. But that's it. You have to basically put yourself out there and say, well, look, as a comic, there's going to be times when you can test the waters and try new stuff. There's other times when you know that, well, look, I got to stay structured. I got to keep it up. Now, I'd say the roughest room I ever worked in my life was the Apollo. But
Why?
because you're so scared when you get ready to hit that stage, because regardless of where you are in this business, if they don't like you, you getting booed. You're getting booed. A friend of mine said, at the Apollo, they got professional booers. You be walking down the street, you got guys online outside talking about boo, 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 because they're just waiting for you to grab the boo. But there were certain rooms that emulated the Apollo. So you had to be on top of your game. And when you're doing shows in those particular rooms, you know that you have to it's like being in a real boxing match. When you come out,
Were you a boxer?
like a real boxing match, you know that for those 3 minutes, you got to keep throwing them punches. But in comedy, you got to keep punching. You got to keep punching for, let's say, whatever amount of time that you have up there. Because as soon as you get complacent and you say, all right, that was a good one, now I can relax. And the audience ain't feeling that. They want you to keep your foot on the gas. Keep your foot on the gas like you're driving your race car. You know, you got to take them curves at 90 miles an hour. You just got to stay on that path, and that'll keep people laughing. But as soon as you feel like I remember there was a room down here in Miami, the Miami Improv was a rough room. And I went there before I did the room. I went there to go check it out, and I seen the feature act get booed, and I was like, "Oh, these guys are rough." So when I got the opportunity, I went in there. I put my foot on the gas. I didn't take my foot off the gas till I said, "All right, thank you, I'm out." Um, and I did the room. I did the room 3 times. The first 2 times I smoked it. The third time I went in there, I was having a smoking set, and then I started feeling myself. I took my foot off the gas, and then I started relaxing and just playing with the audience and stuff. Next thing you know, there was a guy way in the back. I couldn't see it. Ha, 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 ha. I said, oh, Lord, here we go. So it taught me another lesson. Keep your foot on the gas when you're in rooms like that. You got other rooms where you could go in the room and just relax and do your show. But you got other rooms where you got to keep your foot on the gas and just keep them jokes coming. You can't tell long drawn out stories. You got to hit it. One joke, next joke, next joke, and you just got to stay on top of it. So different rooms and different crowds, you have to judge how you perform. It's just like I do clean comedy and I do dirty comedy. So I've learned to be able to do shows for churches. At the same time, I can do a show for a Def Jam audience. So it all depends on who you're performing for, and and you set up your material accordingly. You know, like doing Atlantic City and Vegas, that's more of a show. So we would go in there with tuxedos on, and we would do impressions, and we would sing, we would dance, um, all while doing jokes. So we did like a full show as a comedy team. So we had a takeoff on who's on first. But the way we did our who's on first, um, it was like, well, who's the hoe on First Avenue? What's the hoe on Second Avenue? I don't know the hoe on Third Avenue. So we had our whole little thing. So we would take stuff, um, learn from it, restructure it as far as the old days to update it. And a lot of people don't know that back in the day, there was no such thing as a stand-up comedian. The only way you could do jokes on stage was you had to have somebody else on the stage to talk to, because you weren't allowed to talk directly to the audience. That's where comedy teams came from. And then eventually, you got into people like Red Fox and who kind of broke the mold, you know.
Okay, was that for all comedians or was that something unfair they did to Black comedians?
I'd say that was for all comedians. That
Okay, I
pretty
didn't
much was
know
for
that.
all. That was for all comedians.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't even realize that comedy in the United States was built on Black comedy, Black humor. The very first comedy to ever come out of the United States, which was degrading to Black people, which was blackface comedy,
Yes.
actually started because on Sundays, the slaves basically would imitate the masters and have fun with it. And the slave owners used to basically call other people from other plantations, man, these guys are hilarious. Why don't you come out and watch the show? So after a while, some of the slave owners and their friends decided, well, hey, um, let's imitate these guys. Let's imitate the slaves. But they figured in order to do it, they had to put on blackface. So they put on blackface to imitate the slaves, imitating them. And then eventually how um how black how slaves wound up doing it and were able to get off the plantation to go perform. They in turn put on blackface to imitate the white blackface actors, imitating them, imitating white people. So all I'm saying is that's the story of comedy, the first comedy to come out of the United States. And people didn't even realize that, because you had, before that, all comedy was done like Shakespearean comedies and stuff like that out of Europe. But that's how comedy was born in the United States. And then eventually, so it became the minstrel shows and all that stuff. And then in the long run, matter of fact, when Red Fox first started, you still had a lot of comics doing blackface. And Red Fox said he wasn't going to do it. And he also decided that he was going to take out the way the language was. And people didn't realize the way people always laugh at the way black people used to talk, Southern black people, not realizing that they got their dialect from the white slave owners.
Thank you.
So they would say, well, pick that up there and put that over there. And the slaves would basically, that's where they learned how to talk. And that's where the blackface and the minstrel shows came from, talking like the slave owners. So, it's a whole thing. But eventually, I understood why.
Can I ask you a question, Gil?
Mhm.
So I was raised in a Jewish household, right? And
My grandfather was a German Jew. Go ahead.
oh, that's amazing. My father was a German Jew in the Holocaust.
Well,
So
my great grandfather left Germany at the height of the stuff, moved to Jamaica, and had my grandfather, who was half Jamaican. Well, he was born in Jamaica, so he was Jamaican, but he was part black and part white. But he basically, my mother always said that, because I never got an opportunity to meet him, but my mother said that he always celebrated the Sabbath on Saturday. He didn't eat pork. He was for all intents and purposes, he was Jewish, but he um could pass as white. He could pass as white. And he had an uncle that was black as tar in the street. And he traveled with him as his valet. People didn't even know they were related. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
so I'm a baby boomer, and so of course, being Jewish, I looked up to Al Jolson, and he was unfortunately like the king of blackface.
I remember.
And we didn't know it was disrespectful to black people. That's how ignorant and white privileged we must have been in the 50s
But
to
then
not.
again, you got to realize that everybody.
Uh-huh.
Okay, case in point. Uh, when they came out with Amos and Andy. Amos and Andy was originally, you had two black comedians in blackface that used to do routines similar to that. And then you had two white comedians that took it and ran with it on radio. And then they even did a couple of movies. But when they decided to cast it for TV, that was the first all black cast on TV. But because of the stigma of where it came from, you had a lot of you had like the NEC, I mean the NAACP. We basically protested those shows, and in the process got it taken off the air. But in the meantime, we forgot that it gave the first all black cast ever on TV the opportunity. And you had people like Bill Cosby, who was very militant in a roundabout way, a revolutionary. And what he did was, as soon as he made enough money, he bought the rights to Amos and Andy, and he bought the rights to Amos and all Amos and Andy TV shows, as well as the Little Rascals. So if you notice, uh, you don't see reruns of any of that stuff. You may find it from time to time on CDs and stuff like that, but he bought it and put it in a vault, you could say, so that nobody would have access to it, because he felt it was degrading to black people. And I did a show called Kingfish, Amos and Andy, in Queens, New York, at the Black Spectrum Theater, and he wrote a play based on that. And the character that I played was a person trying to find out what happened to all the footage of Amos and Andy. And then eventually we go into a play based on the show. And it was very, that show came so close to going to Broadway. One of the people that really enjoyed it was a woman named Ruby D. And she came to see the show at least 4 times, and she helped us do a backer show in Manhattan at a theater there. But everybody was, most of the producers of the Broadway shows were Jewish and were afraid of touching that, because of the fact of it represented, and the fact that Bill Cosby had basically took that stuff off the market. So there's a lot of things to learn about. I'm a historian when it comes to comedy, so that's something else I could get into.
I have learned so much. I don't think this has been beyond my wildest dreams to get to open up your brain.
Yeah.
Stuff that you can't even find in a history book that you've said today.
Well, it's there. It's just about finding it. It's just like, I never forget the first time I decided to start working on Red Fox.
Remember his Red album?
Oh, I remember all his albums, but I went looking for some information on Red Fox in the libraries. Mm-hmm. The most I could find was him in a reference book, and it said that he was a gangster that became a comedian. That was it. One line in one of these reference books. And then eventually I was able to find, I sat down, wrote a whole one-man show on him, talking about his history from beginning to end. And eventually I found a couple of books. He had a book called Red Fox's Encyclopedia of Black Humor. And it basically tells you everything, and it starts from vaudeville days, or starts from blackface humor to up until the point of when he wrote the book. So, that gave me a lot of information I didn't know about,
So what have you seen that has evolved in comedy that you love the most, and what hasn't evolved in comedy that you'd still like to see evolve?
That's a rough question.
Thank you.
I think what I saw in comedy, there was a time in comedy where you could say whatever you wanted to say. And you had certain comics that paved the way doing that, like a Lenny Bruce. And he paid dearly for trying to say whatever was on his mind. Went to jail several times for saying stuff that they didn't feel was that he should be saying. And he was a Jewish comic, very, very well known. So, but at the same time, I feel that we've gotten to a point in this country now where, due to what's going on with, I'd say, our president, there's a thing as far as being politically correct. Most comics are not, but at the same time, most of the time, you know where to draw the line. I usually stay away from politics. Now, there's things I feel that you could be able to say as a comedian that you should not say in the street. So I feel that it's gotten to a point where we've, because of what's going on in the world today, we've gotten too politically correct. I mean, I feel that you should be able to say certain things as a comedian. At the same time, people come out, you come out to go see a comedy show. It's comedy. Realize that. Laugh at what you want to laugh at. You don't laugh at what you don't want to laugh at. But since you've come out to see this show or you turn this show on, don't complain about the content, because that comic has the right to say whatever he wants to say. At the same time, if that comic is on a platform like this being interviewed, there's certain things that you shouldn't say, or certain things that certain lines you shouldn't cross. So, like people like Don Rickles, he was always politically incorrect, but it was funny because of the way that he said it and the way that he did it. And I found that as a comic, you shouldn't have to apologize for something you did 10 years ago. I saw that they vilified certain comedians for something that they did on a comedy stage years ago. Yo, that was comedy. That's the way we did comedy. That's the way some of us still do comedy. So I'd say that would be my answer to both of those questions. Because I feel that like you should be able to say whatever you want to say as a comedian on stage. But at the same time, if you're not on stage, you should learn how to curtail, not necessarily say certain things, because basically you're being a clown. You're making people laugh while you're on stage. Off stage is a whole wax.
Yes.
So
the
it shouldn't be your real personal view.
Yeah. It has to be our freedom of speech. What's
but like I said, but you do that. I could see doing that. You can do that as a comedian, but as a politician, there's no place for that. There's no place for that. And I feel that that's where people are starting to misunderstand. What you do on a show on TV is completely different the way you're supposed to deal with people in real life. That's a show, Whereas when all right, like one of the funniest shows in the world coming up, two of the funniest shows were Norman Lear shows were always hilarious. So you had All in the Family, and Archie Bunker was a bigot, but at the same time you had a yin and a yang. So you had his son-in-law who always basically his son-in-law, his wife, and his daughter, who all basically used to put him in his place when he went. So it made you think, and it made you say, oh, okay, now I understand why that's not right. You get what I'm saying? Same thing with the Jeffersons, same thing with Red Fox when he did Sanford and Son. That's a show. But if you're going to be basically impacting people's lives on a political spectrum, I feel that those are places that you shouldn't go. Because if you do stuff like that, that's why if you continue to do stuff like that, that's why we're in the predicament we're in now as a country, totally divided. Because some of the people think that's it's okay to say that um on a political stage. No, it's not. You know,
God,
everybody's supposed to be America's supposed to be a place where um we're all equal. We all treat one another the way we want to be treated. You know, it's like that quote from the Bible, which said, "Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you." That's what I live by. You know. Meanwhile, now if I'm on stage and I'm doing comedy, um, that's different because I'm on stage. I'm performing. It's I'm basically a character. I'm saying certain things that a lot of things I say are untrue because it's comedy. You know, so I might tell you a story and tell you a far-fetched punchline. Why? It's comedy. You know, but I don't see any place for that on it's like telling dirty jokes in church. You're not supposed to do it. You know you're not supposed to do it. Or telling dirty jokes in the synagogue. You know you're not supposed to do it. You know. Now I'm not saying you can't walk out of the church on the street and tell that joke. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But
when you tell those jokes inside the synagogue, they're a lot funnier.
yeah, but that to me, you know, a matter of fact, me and my partner we had a routine we used to do called the Jews Brothers, where we would come out and sing Hava Nakila to a rap beat, and and um and we would put on the fedoras, and we would put on shades with the curls on the side. And we had a guy that seen us in the club, and he was like, "Yo, I want you guys to come and perform for my daughter's I think it's Bas Mitzvah.
Yes, bas mitzvah.
Bas Mitzvah. I want you to come out and so we were like, all right, well, you see what kind of comedy we do. All right, fine. But then when we get there, um, and we were doing some really dirty stuff, you know, and we were at Pips. That's where the guy seen us. So we go to do the show, and we get there. And when we got there, there was a one table with all Hasidic Jews, and then you had then you had the everybody else that was there, you know, uh, and we start telling jokes, and you had some of the kids came and sat on the floor around us, just watching us do our thing. Next thing you know, we went into the Jews Brothers, and boy, a couple of Hasidic Jews, if looks could kill, we'd have been dead. So what was funny was there's times when I would introduce him. I introduced my partner as Rodney Dangerfield, and I walk off the stage, and the guy that hired us, he called me to say, come here, I want to talk to you. I said, what? He said, man, look, here's your money. You can wrap up the show. You know, we hadn't even been there, but I was like, yeah, I understand. I said, but you knew you shouldn't have hired us to do this if you were going to have a whole table full of Hasidic Jews. You should have known better than that, because you know what we do. But you know, you got some people that enjoy the show. You got other people that were tight. But that's the nature of comedy. You're not going to please everybody with
Exactly.
every joke. Some people are going to enjoy your show. Some people are not. Um, I found that the thing is to try and find ways to touch base with everybody in your audience. Um, like I could tell.
Tell me how you do that. Tell me some tips.
Well,
That's
it's
my ultimate. I want to touch the hearts and lives of, I want everybody to know in the audience that I authentically love them, and they're, like, I feel like I'm doing that to some of them, but I want everybody.
well usually it boils down to um what most you got to figure out what your audience um relates to. Everybody relates to or the majority of people relate to marriage. The majority of people relate to family. Um, but at the same time, um, what's funny is you got white comics that are scared to perform for black audiences. You got black comics that are scared to perform for white audiences. if your material is relatable, you might not be able to do the exact routine, but most of your material, if it's relatable, you can do it for any audience.
That's right.
You know, you can do it for any audience. It all depends on another way to do it is sit back, and usually if you're not the first person out, which most of the time we aren't, we're like usually waiting, the host is warming up, you can sit back and you can watch your audience, watch the audience you're about to perform for, see the little things that they're laughing at, and say, oh, okay, they enjoyed that subject. All right, I've got something in my routine on that subject, so I know I can use that. That's the key. Being finding stuff that they can relate to. Because if you're telling a joke and they can't relate to it, it's hard. Another thing that I find in comedy, it's funnier when you make yourself the butt of the joke. Because they can actually, if you're telling a story about two other guys, they'll be trying to visualize those other guys. But if you're telling a joke about yourself, they can see you in that predicament, which will make them laugh.
So speak to how I was just told this last week that when I'm self-deprecating, it's funny, but I take it too far. You know how we exaggerate?
Yeah.
And so when you exaggerate self-deprecating, you cause people to be uncomfortable or feel bad for you. Speak to that, if you will.
Well, there's a way to do it so that you'll make them laugh about it because of the fact that you found a way to laugh about it.
Okay.
But at first, yeah, it can be uncomfortable. You know, like all right, case in point, I got a joke that I talk about being and I've been telling this joke for years, where I'm talking about being pulled over by the cops. And it's more prevalent now because of what's going on, because now everybody sees what's really going on. But there's a way to tell the story that you can make people laugh. You know, like I talk about being pulled over by a cop on a bike, and I say no. I said not a motorcycle. This cop was on a 10-speed bike. He riding on the block like this, and he's riding up behind me, and I hear bring 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 bring. And I'm like, well, what the? Now I look at my rearview mirror, and this cop is riding on the bike trying to catch me. So so I said I drove for another block just to watch this little fat cop on the bike because I couldn't believe he was pulling me up. So I finally pulled over. And he asked me, do you know how fast he was going? And I said, well, I couldn't be driving too fast. You caught me, didn't you? And he said, oh, what are you, a comedian? Yeah. So it's little things that you can do where you can talk about things and let people know that, yeah, sure, this is something that's going on a regular basis, and it's uneasy. I can laugh about it now, but I wasn't laughing about it then. It's just like I talk about being pulled over with a friend of yours that got a big mouth. That, that's the last thing you want. If you get pulled over, you don't want nobody talking stuff to the cop because you'll wind up going to jail. So it's little things, but you got a lot of things in life that can go either way. Now you can tell jokes that about yourself that something bad happened, or you can talk bad about yourself, but it shouldn't be to the point where you're making people feel sorry for you. It should be that people get an opportunity to laugh at it. Like I was with somebody one night, and we were we were doing a show outside, and the person went to walk inside the house and didn't realize that the glass door was closed. Boom, hit their face. And I was in stitches, and everybody was. So it could be taken either way. It could be, oh man, that's really sad. But I'm a New Yorker. New Yorkers laugh at stuff like that. So it's about telling the joke so that it's As a matter of fact, you could even say, well, you know, I thought it was hilarious. Not everybody's gonna find what you're talking about hilarious, but I thought it was funny, you know. So there's a way to do it. All
Can I
right.
tell you what happened 2 nights ago? And
Yeah,
had
yeah.
okay, so I'm a veteran and I have post-traumatic stress. This is not a joke. I
Mm-hmm,
have it.
mm-hmm,
And I would loud noises make me just crazy.
mm.
So I'm sitting at a restaurant, it's quiet, and in walks six burly guys sitting at a table and one scrawny person, right? I'm just talking, I'm not fat shaming, I'm describing. There's a
Yeah, yeah,
difference.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're sitting there and I'm like, and they start ramping up the volume. And I'm trying to listen to my friend on a comedy show. I've got my phone way high. I've got it like this to hear it because they're too loud. It's getting so loud. It's making me crazy.
Mm.
And you don't want to make someone with PTSD crazy. So I'm a sweet girl. It takes a lot for me to make these what's left of dimples go away. I looked at them and I said, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I've never done this in my life. Six burly guys, or and the scrawny one stood up to take me on.
Oh, of course. That's usually the one.
And she's like, she or he, I think it was a lady transitioning, and and part way through the transition, and she's going like this to the six guys. Stay there. I got it. I got this. I got this. And she's dealing with me, and I want to turn this into a story. It
That,
just
that that is a story. That's a story in itself, you know.
and I,
And
I wouldn't know how to make it fun.
I'm sure there's a way. Well, you got your premise.
Yeah.
You got your premise. You know, I mean, you could close it out with like, you know, so I kicked everybody's ass in the restaurant. You know, that's how you could close it out. You know, next thing you
I'm
know,
gonna
they
do
call.
that. That's it.
That's it. You know.
That's it. It's long enough.
So you know, or you could say, you know, the guy got up and I grabbed him by the arm and beat the hell out of everybody with him. You know that. By the time the cops came, six burly guys was laid out. You know, but there's a way to do it. You get what I'm saying? It's just about throwing them, taking them somewhere that they're not expecting. It's like the old joke where uh where the mother's telling the son, well, look, there was a guy that was messing with him, and the mother said, but look, you go outside and you either fight him or you fight me. But you better go out there and handle your business. And the son says, so I kicked my mother's ass, you know. So it's a way to do it. It's a way to do it. You know, it's just about flipping the script, just hitting them with something they wouldn't have, the last thing they would expect you to say that you just snapped and by the time you woke up, you would whipped everybody's ass in the restaurant. That would be hilarious. Just the thought of it, you know.
Can you see the manager erasing the menu? And today's special was this geriatric laying out six burly. The new soup is
Today's
burly
special,
gumbo.
today's special was an ass whipping by a little white woman in the restaurant. You know,
I didn't call for the manager.
exactly. But all I'm saying, there's ways to do it. It's just about thinking about something that's what makes comedy funny. You're expecting it to go one way and it goes sideways. It goes somewhere that you didn't. Like last thing they would expect is for somebody your size to whip six big burly guys and some queen in the restaurant. But just the thought of it is hilarious.
This is what I did with that queen.
I grabbed his ass. You know, it could be hell. Just have fun with it. You know, but that's how you would end that story. That could be hilarious because they're not gonna see that coming. You know, nobody's gonna see that coming. No, what she did? What?
Thank you. You gave me the best gift ever.
anytime, and look, and you know where to find me. But
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this interview. So this was
Me
some
too.
real
I've
fun.
so enjoyed getting to know you, and thanks for sharing your life and your heart. I appreciate it. I'm going to go on here and type everything I feel from being with you. And then if you wouldn't mind sharing it, and I appreciate you so much just coming on and
No
everything you
problem.
do for people, reaching back and helping people with all the volumes of information in your head. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's really been a pleasure. Um,
Pleasure for
like I
me.
said, when you had, what's funny is when you had reached out to me on Messenger, I'm like,
Who's this?
because nowadays you never know who's sending you what. There's so much garbage coming here. And I'm like, I said, well, I don't know this woman. But then after I started, after like we started going back and forth, I was like, okay, she seems to be safe. She seems to be a sweetheart. And then I checked and I seen like you said, we got a lot of mutual friends and stuff. I said, all right, well, cool. I can work with this. And then I checked out some of your other stuff. But that's the nature of where we at today. You know, you
Yes.
got to be careful because you don't know. You got so many people scamming people and all that stuff. But I'm just
I
so
had people tell me, do you want to interview me because I'm in trouble with the law right now? And I'm like, no, what you do, just do what you do. I just want to know about you and your comedy, not, I don't care about all that other, I'm not trying to get an exclusive from you that's going to get me on TMZ. I, I just want your heart to be opened up.
well. This was wonderful, and you're very good at interviewing. So
Thank you.
anytime, and if you need somebody else to interview and you want me to recommend some people, I'll be more than glad.
Yes, please.
All right,
Yes, I do.
but this was wonderful, and I
Thank
thank you
you so
so
much.
much, Linda.
Send me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses of people I can interview.
Oh, I guess I'll be the Statue of Liberty soon. I just got to put some green on, stand out there like this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was
Okay,
I had a ball.
I did too. Come back and promote anything that you're doing. Once a month, come back and plug something for 5 or 10 minutes.
Will do. Will do.
All right, you promise?
I promise.
Okay.
Cross my heart. Don't hope to die, but I cross my heart.
Speaking of which, prayers for Sinbad.
Yes, yes. I that really I didn't know until you told me early today, and then I went on and I saw that like they had just posted it like 5 hours before that, and I was like, wow. Hopefully, they said he's recovering, so let's just hope that he recovers fully, because let's just hope they caught it in time, because a lot of times people get these strokes and they're never the same. So I wish him the best, because he's one of the most humble individuals in the business, and he's a dying breed. He's one of the comedians that works squeaky clean.
Mhm.
That's hard to come by. That's hard to come by.
Yeah. You know, the pandemic is difficult enough, and I really don't know how. I'm going to need some help to get through it if he doesn't make it through it. Like this is rough enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
look,
he better
just
make it. That's all I got to say.
he'll be. Let's just trust in God that he'll be fine. And you gotta be realistic nowadays. Uh, if God forbid that he does pass, then it would be his time. But regardless of what, he's done some wonderful work. He's done some wonderful work. So let's just hope that that's not the end of where he's going. So let's just, like you said, pray is sent for Sinbad. You
Yeah.
know?
That's the only place we can get any peace.
Well, all I'm gonna say is there's other times you can get peace too, but you just gotta watch what peace you're getting.
And if you're carrying a piece and you're cleaning it, make sure there's no bullets in the chamber.
Oh, see, we could write together. You good. You good.
This.
All right, Linda, you take care. So God bless. And yeah, I'll definitely you know, if you post something, I will repost it.
You got it. I'll go do it right now.
All right, Linda. Take
Bye.
care.
Love you, Gil.
Love you too. Pleasure.
Pleasure.